And so I'm 20 some years old. I'm working hard. I'm working 16 hours a day. I am like borderline burnt out, and the money is coming in and there's never enough of it. And as soon as I get it, it's gone. And
Yeah.
then in my 30s, my late 30s, I made $10,000 through doing almost nothing. I spent an hour on the phone with a client who I did a strategic planning, this was before virtual was virtual, right? This was before COVID. But I literally, over the phone, we did a strategic planning exercise that they paid me $10,000 for. It was for an hour of my time, and I was not working hard. And my initial thought, Judith, was that I did something wrong.
I create clear thinking and decisive leaders who can amplify their influence. Contact me to find out how I can help you or your organisation. And today, our guest is Darnyelle Harmon. How are you doing?
I am doing so good, Judith. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm pleased to have you here too. Darnyelle, what makes you excited generally?
Oh gosh. Oh, even the fact that you asked me this question makes me excited generally. So there's probably three things that really excite me. Number one, I just love life, right? I think when you know your purpose, you just wake up with such veracity to attack the day, to manage today, to move gracefully through the day. So that's the first thing. I'm excited about life. Second thing that gets me super excited is I love talking about money. I love money, and I love helping people unlock the mysteries and dismantle the blocks and the beliefs that they hold that are keeping them from more of it. And then the third thing that I love talking about is I just love women and entrepreneurship and faith, like all together in one yummy, juicy, amazing sandwich.
Oh, that's pretty good. So tell us a bit more about you then.
So I am first and foremost a God girl. I am unapologetic about my faith. I believe that businesses that have a spiritual foundation go way farther, way faster. And I believe that understanding the principles of spirituality, agnostic to religion, really can make a difference in the way that we move throughout the world. So first and foremost, I'm a God girl. In addition to that, I am a wife. I am a mother to a fur person. I am an award-winning CEO. I am a sister. I'm a best friend. I am a woman who's just generally excited about life and looking for opportunities every single day to make a difference and to matter so that I can help other people get to where it is that they want to be.
Sounds fantastic, which is a good segue to understanding that what you say about having the right mindset for millions. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah. So here's the thing for me, Judith. I believe, and I work with entrepreneurs and small business owners, and specifically those who desire to have companies that are making $1 million or more a year so that they can ultimately leverage their business to build wealth and to create generational wealth that is financial, right? I think legacy is great. You can pass down your recipes, but as you pass down those recipes, let's also pass down some money, right? Let's leave our next generation better than we got it handed from our parents and our grandparents. And so specifically when I think about the call and the mandate on my life, I think back to probably 2017 was when it really became a thing for me. And I think at that particular point in time in the marketplace, there was a lot of talk about having a movement, right? Like you
Right.
don't want a business, you want a movement. You want to galvanize people, get people together, get them all moving towards something in particular is going to make a difference. And I did not have one. And I remember feeling like I was missing out on something because I didn't have a movement. And so I just started praying, like, God, when you're ready, give me my movement. I'll be ready for it. So about 3 years later in 2020, God spoke three words to me: move to millions. And upon hearing those three words, I immediately felt goosebumps and chills all over my body, which for me is an indication that I'm getting a God wink. And I immediately at the same time started to be like, oh my gosh, I think this is it. I think this is my movement. As I started to share with other people, they were excited about the thought of it, but they were also a little leery about what it meant and what it would feel like. And what I recognized is that most of us even when we come from money, what we are taught about money and what we think about money actually hinders around guilt, embarrassment, the fear of being greedy or evil, or any of the emotions are not positive, essentially. And what I recognize is money flows away from those who think if there's a shortage of it, and you'll never earn more than you believe you are worthy and deserving of having. So I recognize that there was this real dichotomy and connection between the way we see ourselves and the way we see money. And if I could help people see themselves differently, i.e., see themselves the way that their creator has and always seen them, then that would shift the way that they looked at themselves, they looked at money, and they responded to money. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to have to change mindsets because most of us were taught money doesn't grow on a tree out back. You got to work hard for it. And if you're a Black person, like we are, like, you got to work twice as hard to get just a fraction, right? Like all of these things that we are taught and that we are raised on become the core beliefs that we hold around it, and it stifles our ability to experience in a way that it was actually intended. And so my part of doing something for, the world is really shifting the way we see money, shifting the way we see ourselves, and shifting the way we relate to money, because we're all in a relationship with money. It's either a thin line between love and hate, or it's on and popping, but we're all in a relationship. And until we learn how to manage the relationship based on what we desire to experience as a result of it, things won't change, right? Like I think about the fact that when you're in, let's make it completely about a relationship. When you're in a relationship, you're attentive, you're loving, you're communicative, you create a safe space for them. Well, we have to do the same thing with money. If you are an avoider and you never look at your bills or you never look at your bank account because you're afraid there's nothing there, you're basically neglecting your relationship with money. And how can you expect to neglect your relationship and have it show up for you when you need it? And so I like to just kind of decodify some of the mysteries that exist and the way people see money to help them to understand things that they can do differently so that they can open up a new paradigm and usher more of it into their life experience.
Brilliant. This is good. So let me just ask you a couple of questions. I can almost imagine people listening going, oh, this is not going to be another one of the law of attraction type things.
I'm not, okay. Well, it's not that I'm not a fan of the law of attraction, but I'm not a ride or die law attraction person. I think that there are many universal laws that govern the universe.
Yeah.
The law of attraction just being one of them. I like to look at money from the standpoint of what we were taught about it, and recognizing that money is every single day, every single one of us makes decisions about money. If we are in our home and it's cold and we want to turn on the heater, what likely runs through our mind is, what will my bill look like if I turn up the heat? Right? If I'm sitting in my living room and decide I want to go out and get something from the store, I got to think about, do I have gas in my car? Do I need to go buy gas? And when I get to the store, am I going to be able to get whatever I want with my good looks, or am I going to have to give them money in exchange for what it is that I want? Like, we have to make decisions around money every single day.
Yeah.
Yet, so many of us are afraid to be honest that we want more of it than we have.
I agree. Is there a way though? So what do you have to do to have the right mindset?
Yeah, so you have to challenge what you were taught to believe about money. So when we are born, every single one of us, we come into the earth realm as a vessel of light. We literally come here as abundance. And then we meet our families. And this is not a dig on your family. I believe that they did the best that they could with what they had. But their best often was predicated on what they were taught from their parents and their family and what they observed around money. And that's where you have to work hard for money. Money doesn't grow on a tree out back. Money is only for what you need. Only wealthy people are evil, and it is better to be poor because you'll be closer to God. That's where all of those beliefs that we internalize and we believe to be true, because as children, when they were taught to us by our loved ones, We were literally receptacles of everything that they told us. Like we believed everything that they said. We had no filter system. And, from birth to the age of 7, absolutely no filter. We could technically go up to the age of 12 in some instances, but by the time we're 7, we're starting to now process the information that we're being given and we can make some different choices. But before that, everything that's presented to us, just like our subconscious mind, we take it to be true. So if a person tells us enough times that you have to work hard for money, or we don't have money for that, or we can't afford that, or that's not in the budget, we start to hold those things as the barometer by which we try everything. And before we know it, that little 7-year-old has grown into a 40-year-old who still struggles with money because they're constantly regurgitating the beliefs that they've been taught. So the first thing we have to do is we have to challenge the beliefs. We have to validate that maybe they are not true. I was in my 30s, Judith, when I realized that I did not have to work for money. Now, I grew up, my dad probably said at least 3 times a week, you got to work hard for that. And so I grew up believing I had to work hard. And I remember when I got my first job in corporate America and progressed into becoming a manager, and there was this expectation of face time, meaning you would stay at work 12, 14, 16 hours a day just so that it would be perceived as if you were working hard for your money. And I did it because that's what I thought I had to do, because that's what I was taught and that's what I believed, because my whole life getting money and keeping money was hard. And so I'm 20 some years old. I'm working hard. I'm working 16 hours a day. I am like borderline burnt out, and the money is coming in and there's never enough of it. And as soon as I get it, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then in my late 30s, I made $10,000 through doing almost nothing. I spent an hour on the phone with a client who I did a strategic planning, this was before virtual was virtual, right? This was before COVID, but I literally over the phone, we did a strategic planning exercise that they paid me $10,000 for. It was for an hour of my time, and I was not working hard. And my initial thought, Judith, was that I did something wrong, because I just made this 5 figures. I made $10,000 and I didn't sweat. I didn't have to cancel a plan that I had. I didn't have to choose work over living my life. I thought something was wrong with me. And then what I realized is that I had bought into a belief that had been passed down from, my father's father and his father's father to my father. And they all believed it to be true because that was their truth, not necessarily my truth. And that was when I began to challenge everything I was taught and everything that I believed to be true about money. And every single time, piece by piece, I was able to dismantle the belief and to realize it might be true for some, but it's not an absolute. And so what we always have to remember is that there is the truth and there is the truth for you. They're not always the same, right? A fact is not often always a truth. So it just turned into this amazing point of discovery in my life where I recognized that almost everything I had been taught about money wasn't true. Now, this coincided with me filing bankruptcy because I made some really bad money decisions, because money didn't grow on a tree out back and you have to rob Peter to pay Paul, like all the things I had been taught. And so as a part of my recovery after filing bankruptcy, I had to take a financial literacy course, and everything was challenged. And not just traditional financial literacy, like what is a budget? How do you budget? Not just that, but understanding the dynamics and the psychology of money, understanding the energetics of money, and that money really is just an energy. It's a current. That's why it's called currency, that always is flowing, right? How else can we explain that right here, right now, somewhere, there is an athlete who just got a contract for somebody might say enormous amount of money, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And at the same time, there's someone who's living on the street with a cup out, panhandling to get change to get a cup of coffee. Because money never stops moving, and we get to make choices about how money shows up for us. And once you decide how you want money to show up for you, you can bend the reality of the energy to get money to show up for you that way.
Okay, so tell me how to do that, because I'd imagine that some people might be saying, all right, I believe all these things, but it's still not happening. So can we
So
go?
here's the thing. Yeah, so it is not often your conscious belief. So what we have to understand is our mind is split into two. We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is what you were born with and what you come into the earth realm with. Your subconscious mind becomes conscious based on the things you learn and you take in over time. And then your subconscious mind replays what you took in as if it's the truth, because everything you present to it, it's presented as if it is true. So you've heard the saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mhm.
It's true because it's based on what you think to be true, based on what you tell your subconscious mind. So the first thing that you have to do is it's almost like playing a game, Judith. You have to begin. I'm going to use the word trick because that's the best word that I have to describe it in this moment. You have to begin to trick your subconscious mind and present it with something else you want to be true. Because if it is true, which I believe and know that it is, that everything you present subconsciously is the truth, then you tell it what you want it to believe is true. And what happens, and it is going to sound a little woo woo. Even as I say it, I know someone's like, this woman's crazy, but it is over time. If you keep telling yourself a new truth or something you present to it as if it's a new truth, believing it, not doubting it, and acting as if it is your reality, it will become your truth. And so it is almost like a game. So we've all heard of affirmations. These are the I am statements that we recite. I am beautiful. I am smart. I am a millionaire. I am, whatever you want to be, whatever you desire to bring into your life experience, you begin speaking that over your life. Well, the beautiful thing about an I am statement is that as you continue to speak it, you shift the patterns of belief because the universe has to present you with what you believe to be the truth. So if you keep saying, I am rich, I am wealthy, money comes, I bring money into me every single day, I am a money magnet, then over time, continuing to say it and allowing the energetic frequency and the vibration with which you speak it, meaning you're not saying it in a voice that exudes fear or doubt. You're saying it with certainty. You're saying it like you say your name. No one, when asked their name, shudders or says it in a low, meek voice as if to signify that that's not their name. They say it with confidence and boldness because that is who they know they are. That is their truth. Well, if you begin to shift those limiting beliefs that you hold in the same way with the same energy and intensity, over time, they change for you. And what will happen is you will begin to get small pieces of evidence that corroborate the new truth that you are telling your subconscious mind. Now, when is this most important? When we wake up, the first 20 minutes after you wake is the most important time to shift your subconscious mind. The 20 minutes before you go to bed is the most important time to set an intention about what you want to be thinking about, dreaming about as you sleep. Those two periods of time, speaking affirmation statements that are positive, present tense, and indicative of what it is you desire to bring into your life experience, will begin to allow you to experience the shift that will bring them into your life experience.
Okay, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of that makes sense to me. Even funny enough, even today I was talking to somebody I was mentoring about brain hacking and explaining how that works. I didn't, and I've often gone to sleep with an instruction to my subconscious to do something. Um, I didn't know that that was an ideal time. I just felt right to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess maybe the most hardest thing to do is to do those affirmations. In fact, I've always found it difficult to do affirmations, funny enough, because I always felt a little bit silly
Mm-hmm.
um doing that. Oh,
I get that because I used to feel the same way. I actually didn't like them because I would make an I am statement, but I didn't believe it. So, for instance, when I was in the point in my life where I did not have money in excess, to say I am a millionaire and then to go look at my bank account and to see there's $34 in it, I'm like, yeah, right. I couldn't believe the statements. So it was really a struggle for me. And this is how it changed for me. Now, as I've already stated, I am a woman of faith. So part of this is going to be about that. So someone said to me once, and this was later in life when this is probably about maybe 7 years ago when I actually started liking affirmations. So someone said to me, Darnyelle, you kind of remind me, like some of the things you do, it kind of reminds me of the story of Moses. Now, I mean, I've read the Bible. At that point, I had read it, but was I a Bible scholar by any stretch of the imagination, right? So I loosely knew who Moses was. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me go and read the story of Moses in the Bible. So for anybody who hasn't read, just to tell you the story and also just to signify just at this moment right here, I quote the Bible like someone else would quote any other book because it is a text, right? So in the story of about Moses is being chosen by God to deliver the children of Israel, who at that particular point in time are enslaved in Egypt, to Pharaoh. Moses doesn't want to go. Moses does not believe he's the one. He's got imposter syndrome. That's what we would call it today. And so he's not interested in going. And he gives God every excuse he possibly can to get out of being the one that God sends to Pharaoh because he is deathly afraid. Although he was raised by Pharaoh's daughter, he killed a man, he ran away. He does not want to go into proximity to Pharaoh. So he's trying to avoid it like the plague. After he's given God every excuse and God refutes every excuse, he eventually he surrenders that whole if you can't beat him, join him, right? And he goes, okay, God, fine. This is the Darnyelle version, by the way. I'm going to go to Pharaoh. Who do I say sent me? God's response, if you know the Bible, was tell him I am that I am sent you. And this is what changed for me, Judith. And this is why I started to like affirmations. I realized that if God is I am, and when I make an I am statement, I am coming into alignment with who God sees me to be. I am actually in the state that I can bring into my life experience everything that I want. And from that moment on, I became very careful about what I would speak over my life. And even in making affirmations or I am statements, I always check them. And this is a quick check for anybody to see if you're in alignment. If you want to know if you're in alignment, make an I am statement. And if you change I am to God is and it no longer makes sense, you're not in alignment. So here's an example. I am broke, since we're talking about money. Many have said that a million times without even thinking about it because in their mind, in that moment, in their life experience, they do not have resource enough for whatever it is that they desire. And that therefore they believe they are broke. So if you say I am broke and then you change I am broke to God is broke. Yeah, I don't know if I believe that God could be broke. And like, if he's the creator of all things, he can't possibly be broke. So for me, if I am created in God's image and likeness, which Genesis 1:26 tells us that I am, and I say I am broke, but then I say God is broke and it no longer makes sense, I must be out of alignment with who God sees me to be. Therefore, the affirmation that I just made is actually not going to produce what I desire. It's going to bring me more of what I already have. And so we have to become very intentional about what we speak over ourselves and who we will believe that we are. And when we make a statement, we have to run that test to make sure that the affirmation we are saying actually makes sense when we make it about God, because then that's how we know that we can actually put ourselves in position for that to become our reality.
Brilliant. Thank you. A couple of things there. I've never really thought of affirmations beyond personal statements of what that person wants to be. And what I mean is maybe because when I've heard people talking about affirmations, they tend to be things like, I don't know, I am confident, or I'm not fat, or, or I'm healthy, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I've never thought of it in terms of, I'm a millionaire, for example. So in my head, they've always been quite restricted into that kind of personal characteristic. So it's interesting to see it from a from a different perspective, a broader
Yeah.
perspective. And it's
Yeah, and I agree. Like I was the same way. I was like, the things that I said were not the same, but when I recognized that I could play this game with myself and I could begin to speak what I desire to be. Like I think most people have heard the phrase fake it until you make it. Now, I'm not a
I don't like
proponent of the phrase. I hate the phrase. But I think what they meant, whoever created it, right? What I think they meant when they created the phrase was act as if it's already your reality so that it becomes your reality. That's what I believe that they meant when they said fake it till you make it. I don't think that they really want us to be disingenuous and out of integrity or any of those things that come up for me when I hear that phrase. And if what they actually meant was to act as if it is already your reality, I get it. Because that's the only way to change your situation is to act as if you already are experiencing whatever it is that you desire and to do it in an energy that is positive and uplifting, because that is how you raise your vibration and you accelerate it coming into your life experience. If you say, I'm a millionaire, and you say it like in this low, arduous tone, as if it couldn't possibly be true, and why in the world would millions of dollars ever want to flow into your life experience, then they're not flowing in, because money flows away from those who think that there is a shortage of it. So even when we say things like, I can't afford it, it's not in my budget, that's expensive, what we're doing is we're putting a limit on money, and money is abundance and it flows at all times. And so the way that we shift our mindset for millions or billions or trillions is to stop looking at it as if it's this thing that is unattainable and start recognizing that we could bring it into our life. And you can do things like start to put the word only when you talk about money, whether you're talking about your prices, if you are, an entrepreneur and you're selling services to people, and let's say your product is $10,000. Instead of saying it's $10,000, say it's only $10,000. It's only $100,000. It's only going to cost you $500,000 to spend the day with me. By putting that only in front of it, you're expanding the capacity of how much money could come into your life experience, because you're no longer limiting what money can be and what form it can take to come in. And so it's neuroscience. It's energetics and it's psychology all coming together that begins to shift the tangible expression of money that we get to experience, because money is mental before it's material. And if you don't hold space or capacity for it as much as you desire in your mind, it will never land between your fingers.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of neuroscience that you're talking about there. Let's listen to a quick advert.
The Maverick Paradox. Judith Germain is an author, speaker, consultant, mentor, and trainer, and the leading authority on Maverick leadership. She is the founder of the Maverick Paradox, which supports organizations to enhance their leadership capabilities and to help business owners develop and grow their businesses. Judith enables individuals, business owners, and organizations to improve their impact and influence. She is also HR Zone's leadership columnist, and her expert opinion has appeared in national, international, and trade press.
Welcome back to the Maverick Paradox. This is the podcast for the pathologically curious. I'm curious. You said that earlier that you made a lot of money very quickly, but I'm not sure you said how you did that.
Yeah. So, part of it was understanding that money is an energy and I get to determine, right? So part of it was that. Second thing was I had to stop thinking like an employee. So when we work at a company, we often get paid by the hour, right? Someone else is determining what the value of our service is. Now, most people relate their worthiness to what they earn. So when I first became an entrepreneur, I charged by the hour because that's what I was used to. I came from being an employee in corporate America where I was paid by the hour. And I, as an entrepreneur was like, okay, well, for an hour of my time, I'm going to make a number up. It was $100. It sounded like a lot because I think in my job, my hourly rate was maybe $50 or $60, but it really wasn't a lot, right? So I had to stop charging by the hour because your hours are going to run out. you can't scale. There's everyone, no matter who we are, the richest person, the poorest person, they all only have 24 hours in a day. And we should be sleeping for 8 of those hours, right? So that leaves 16, assuming we work all 16. And if we're charging by the hour and we only have 16 hours, it also probably means that we're working actively, which means we could only be doing one work for one person during that time. Well, that's a problem. That's going to limit the capacity of how much money we could bring in. So I stopped charging by the hour and I started to look at the outcome or the result I was able to produce for clients. And I started to assign a value to that outcome or result, and people paid me for the value.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the third thing that I did is I started having more conversations with more people. So in an example, let's say my service is $5,000, right? Most people can get around charging $5,000 for what it is that they do. And, and depending upon where you live in the country, convert it to your money. And instead of selling one person a $5,000 thing that would take whatever, amount of time to fulfill it, what if you sold 10 people a $5,000 thing? So that was the first test that I gave myself. My husband and I were building a new house, and to get all of the options that we wanted to have to enhance our home, the deposit was $50,000. And so I said to my husband, let's play a game and let's make $50,000 in 2 weeks. Now, he thought I was off my rocker because he had never experienced that. He made $50,000, but it took him all year to do it. Most of us, when we think like employees, we think about how long it took us to get our salary. And we also never saw all of that money at one time, right? Because it was compartmentalized every 2-week paychecks with money being taken out for taxes and health insurance and all of those things. Well, recognizing that we desire to create $50,000 in 2 weeks, I said, okay, I can create this money by offering to solve a problem for a group of people who have been unsuccessful at solving this problem on their own. And I created an offer that I priced at $5,000 with a goal to get 10,000 people to buy, or 10,000 to get 10 people to buy it in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
I sent 3 emails to my list. And by the time the third email went out, all 10 spaces were sold. And it took me 7 days to do it instead of 2 weeks. Because I made a decision that this is what I was going to do. I clearly understood the problem that the people in my community had and what kind of solution they would want to have access to so that they could experience the result that they wanted instead of whatever was their current reality. And the answer in that particular instance was $50,000 in 7 days. Since then, I've done millions of dollars I did $1 million in an hour once. I've done $1 million in 90 days. I've done $1 million over 3 days. So I can collapse the amount of time it takes for me to make a lot of money by continuing to expand my capacity for money and raising my tolerance level for money. So I said earlier, money flows away from those who believe that there's a shortage of it. Another important thing to know about money is that the amount of money that comes in is going to be based on what you believe is a large amount of money. So by creating an environment where $1 million is not a lot of money, I expand my capacity to be able to bring that amount of money in the time frame that I set. It could take me a year to do it, but I could also do it in an hour if I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to decide and I get to play this game with myself. That's the beauty of energy, which is what money is.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yep.
So you attribute that then to doing your affirmations and what people would say is trying to manifest that, or would you attribute to that having the right mindset but also being really good at marketing and stuff?
Oh yeah, well, mindset is definitely the lion's share of it, right? I believe that 95% of it is your mindset and 5% of it is the actions or the skill. Some other people might say 85 and 15%. There's no right or wrong answer. I think it's just based on personal preference and the things that you've seen. So no, it's not just mindset. I'm out. It would be great if we could all just sit around and think about millions of dollars and they would just show up. But no, you got to take actions, right? You've got to give you've got to give the universe something to bless. So there are still actions that need to be taken, but the action or the effort does not supersede the embodiments or the alignment. That comes first.
Okay. Is there a best way, in your opinion, to do affirmations?
That's a good question. Let me tell you the way that I do it. It may not be the best way, but it could be a way that your listeners could look at. So what I always do is I first, get somewhere where I can not be distracted. I clear, any clutter that's immediately in my environment, and I take some deep cleansing breaths. Typically at least 3, sometimes as many as 7. Depends on like what was happening just before that. What am I like trying to kind of get out of my system so that I can be a clear conduit and vessel to bring in what it is that I desire. I want you to notice, and your listeners to notice, Judith, that I constantly am saying the word desire as opposed to the word want. Want is a word that holds lack. To want something means that there's something that's missing. To desire something, first, in Latin, the word desire means of the Father. So typically the desires that we hold aren't ours in the first place. They were given to us because it's what we are worthy of and worthy to experience. But it also, desire is a word that vibrates. It's an energetic word that will raise the way that we feel when we're coming into close contact with something that we desired or we would like to bring into our life experience. So when we desire it, our feelings and emotions are higher, and we can accelerate the rate with which what we desire shows up for us. So after I've cleared my palate and taken my deep and cleansing breaths, I typically will close my eyes and I will ask myself, what do I desire most in this moment? And I have pen and paper right there. Whatever it is I desire most, I just write it down, all the words, because they're usually like one word, right? And then I turn each of those one words into a positive present tense affirmation. And so it can be, I am, insert the word. If it is something that could be the answer to being I am is makes sense. Or it could be a phrase or a feeling, right? And if it's that, one of the things that I often do is I will say, I am so happy and grateful. Gratitude is part of the highest emotion. Now that, and then I spell out exactly what it is that I want in positive present tense. Here's an example. I am so happy and grateful now that I have a team full of talented employees who understand our core missions and values, show up fully every single day, and operate in this company as if it's their own in order for us to achieve our goals and KPIs and to grow this company to the $10 million mark. Positive present tense, what I desire, because that's what I desire. I desire for everybody on my team to show up fully, do their job, to be excited about this company, and to do things that move us closer to our goal. That's just one example. I wanted to give an example that was something other than money, because we've been talking about money the whole time. So either one of those two. So I will say, I'm a millionaire. I am abundance. I am light. I am integrity. I am truth. I am sincerity. And then I will also say, I'm so happy and grateful now that money flows to me without conditions whenever I decide I would like more of it to arrive. I am so happy and grateful now that I am a money magnet and money is always in proximity to me. I am so happy and grateful now that, and you could just keep going, like you just talk about. But the important thing, because remember, we talked about your subconscious mind and it taking everything you present to it as if it's the truth. The now that makes it positive present tense. What gets us in trouble is when we focus on the past or the future. It has to be right now. So what is it that you want to come in right now? So I write those things down. I turn them into statements. I read them out loud, because when you speak it, you are actually activating its movement in the earth realm. And so for me, it's not enough just to read it on paper, but to actually say it in my own voice with confidence, with poise, with excitement, with desire, with heightened feelings, emotions, and energy around how amazing it will feel, taste, smell, and how I will sense it when it comes into my life experience. So I want to get completely visceral with it, because the more I can make it part of my senses, the more I increase the likelihood that it shows up.
Okay. That's really helpful, going to such detail there. How often do you say the same affirmations? Or is it a case of there's these affirmations for Monday and Tuesday I want something else, and Wednesday I might want what Monday had? Or do you I will say the same affirmations until I have those things?
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. So I have a list that I say every single day in that first 20 minutes when I'm first waking up in the morning. And then I have other ones that I will add in based on specific things that are happening at that particular point in time in my life.
So is there
and I say them, to answer the other part of your question, I say them until they become natural and normal to me and I don't have to say it anymore. Because if we're being honest, Judith, there is a portion of time where you're convincing yourself because you don't believe it yet, right? You're like, I'm a millionaire, and then you go look at your bank account, it's like $58.12, right? You're like, okay, it didn't happen yet. So for a portion of time, you're convincing it. So that's why you have to get in the habit of saying it every single day. It has to become part of who you are, part of that. Then eventually, once the money starts showing up, even if it hasn't shown up to the tune of millions, but it's flowing in, now you hold a different level of understanding about that particular affirmation. So maybe you don't have to say it anymore. It's become indoctrinated into who you are and you feel it. It's part of you, so you don't have to call it out on a regular basis. And that can take, I've had some where it's taken me in succession for 90 days. Some it's taken in succession for a year, and others, a couple of weeks. It just really depends on how quickly I can get my feelings to line up. Again, the highest emotion being love, faith, gratitude, and trust. How long will it take me to feel gratitude over this thing that I desire to bring into my life experience as if it is already here right now, and act like it? Like, one of the things that I do is I have these alarms set on my phone that go off every 3 hours. I call them my abundance alarms. And they go off just to signify as a remembrance that I am abundance. And if I am abundance, I have to always be thinking about what abundance would do. So if I'm presented with an opportunity that maybe brings up some fear for me, because fear does show up, right? It's your ego's way of protecting you and keeping you safe. And it's also an indication that your next level is present. But if we're not careful, when fear shows up, we will run in the opposite direction instead of embracing the fear and getting excited because we're one step closer to whatever it is that we most desire. So these alarms go off for me periodically throughout the day. And when they do, I stop what I'm doing. I breathe in abundance and let it feel me. And then I speak some affirmations over myself, just as a reminder that I am in this moment right here, right now. I am abundance. And if I am abundance, which I am, I need to always act in accordance to how abundance would act. And that has been an amazing governing belief system and activity that I do every single day, multiple times a day, that keeps me operating in the flow of abundance so that I can bring abundant things into my life. Money shows up out of nowhere that I wasn't even expecting. Like, I literally opened the mail. I just got back from a trip. And when I got home last night, I got the mail and I opened the mail, and there was a check in the mail for $2,587, which happened to be a refund from something that I did months ago with a company that I had forgotten about. And they probably even called me and said, we want to send you this refund or whatever. And I just forgot about it. And I guess too much time lapse. I didn't request it. So they just sent me a check for it. I was not in need of that $2,500, nor did I know it was coming, but because I stay in the seat of abundance at all times, it allows what I most desire. And what I most desire is more money than I can give, spend, invest, or save at any particular moment in time, so that I never have to come into stress or tension or anxiety around money. It flows in. And sometimes it isn't money, but it's an opportunity to make money. Last week, I had 2 colleagues call me out of the blue with opportunities for me to participate on contracts that they were going to be applying for with the federal government. Both contracts were going to be multiple millions of dollars. And my share on the contracts could be the equivalent to $1 million. So just staying in the flow of abundance and constantly asking myself, what would abundance do, keeps me vibrating at a level that abundance can always be present in my presence.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Just before we end, Just a query, because you talked about, love, faith, and abundance being the things that you think about. What would you say to those that might think that this method of making money or getting what you desire is somehow misaligned to a faith belief that God provides everything?
That's a good question. Okay. I don't know if you're going to like this answer, Judith, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do my best not to spend my time focused on what other people think or believe. I focus on speaking truth in integrity and full confidence and certainty, because I don't do theory. I will never present, and I know those who are going to listen to me, this is probably many of them their first time experiencing me, and they don't know me from Adam. But I can tell you that I don't do theory. I only operate in integrity. And if I tell you it, it's because I know it to be true for myself. I didn't hear somebody else say it at a party and made it my own story. I actually experienced it. And so because of that, I don't get concerned with whether or not you believe it to be true. Like I believe in allowing people to fight for their limitations. If they want to fight for them, they get to keep them.
I get you. I get what you're saying. So should I interpret that to say then that you feel that there's no conflict between the idea of manifesting what you want and God giving you what you need? Do you see what I mean?
No, I don't. I believe that the Bible is very principled. Now, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, there is no, hey, God, I want this, and he just gives it to you. The Bible says faith without works is dead. So you cannot just in faith ask God for something. You have to go out and do your part.
Right.
It's not all effort. It's not work hard, hustle, right? It's get into alignment, stay in a state of gratitude, do your forgiveness work, and take the next action to take so that you can be blessed on the journey to what it is that you want. So there is a role and a role and a responsibility that we play in, along with asking God for whatever it is we ask him for. If we do our part, he does his part. He's very principled, and it's very simple. So for the people who believe that they can just pray, I was just thinking about the scripture, right? Asking it is given, seeking ye shall find, knocking the door shall be open. In order for you to get whatever the reward is, you have to take an action. In order for it to be given to you, you have to ask. That's action. In order for you to find, you have to seek. That's an action. In order for the door to be opened, you have to knock. That's an action. So you can ask, but you also have to take the action, because God has already given us. If I think about Genesis 1:26, which says, let us make man in our own image and likeness. Let us give him the power and authority over the earth and the power to subdue it. What that means is that you have the command over everything, and everything that you command falls under your jurisdiction. That's what God gave you. So because God already gave you that, you have some of the power yourself as you take the action to subdue. So we have to act. So anybody who believes that they can just, pray their way into wealth, I'm sorry to tell you that you're probably not going to get wealthy just through prayer. There's an action that needs to be taken.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Yep. And for those that listen that have a different faith or no faith, do you feel that your method, Mindset Millions, would work for them as well?
Yes. And here's why. Because it's not religious. The book that I am quoting is the Bible, but the Bible is a book just like Think and Grow Rich or Profit First or my new book, Move to Millions, right? Mm-hmm. And in all of these books are tried and true and tested principles that when you work them can produce the same result that they did for someone else. So this is not, you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be a believer in order to use these principles. And we saw this, and this might make some people unhappy anyway. We saw this with the advent of The Secret. If you are a person who knows God and the word, then you know everything they talked about in The Secret is scripture. But The Secret didn't use any scriptures because even in the Bible says any man who believes. So if you just believe the principles themselves, then you get the reward of the principle. So it's not religious. It's agnostic to religion. It's a set of principles that when leveraged can produce the result. And that is what I love about it. I have clients, many of whom are Christian, but some who are Buddhist and Muslim and agnostic and atheist. And they can still leverage the principles and experience the reward of the principles. And it's important for me to say that because I don't want anyone to be hearing this and think, oh, well, I don't know Jesus, so this won't work for me. No, it's principle. And because of that, it will work if you work it. It's the same as saying, I was trying to think of a formula of some sort, but I can't, of course, just because I want to. It's the same as saying pi equals whatever pi equals, right? It's the same thing. It's if you put the steps into the formula, you're going to get the answer to the equation. It's the same thing. And that's what I love about it, which makes it really easy for me as a person who teaches and mentors around this to be able to support people to shift the way they see themselves, to shift the way they see money, and to open up capacity for more money to come into their life experience.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important. It's important to be clear on what you're saying. This is fantastic. It's been, a really good conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. This was awesome. I've enjoyed it as well. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you out there for tuning in to the Maverick Paradox podcast. I am Judith Germain, your host, and I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation.
The Maverick Paradox Magazine. The Maverick Paradox Magazine is for the pathologically curious. Written by a swagger of socialized mavericks who are divergent thinkers, the magazine tackles the biggest issues affecting maverick leaders today. You might be a business owner or a leader within an organization who wants to have your thinking challenged, to be exposed to a diversity of thought, or to learn from diverse experts in their fields. If so, the Maverick Paradox Magazine is for you. Join the swagger at themaverickparadox.com and engage in the conversation.